Namaskaram, Swagatam, and a hearty welcome to all our viewers. Disha Bharat is an NGO working in the field of value education since 2005. Disha Bharat conducts personality development programs and special programs to sensitize our youth on know your country, know your culture, and know yourself. In this journey, we have reached 4 lakh plus students and thousands of teachers. Ethics from Epics is a part of our 20th year celebration. In this series, we invite eminent personalities to give a deeper insight on the hidden treasures and value systems from our epics. In today's session, we are honored to have Dr. Mrutyunjay Athreya. Dr. Mrutyunjay Athreya has been a founder and pioneer of the Indian management profession. After work experience and gold medals in cost accountancy, he got the doctorate from the Harvard Business School, USA. He has been a professor at the IIM Kolkata, London Business School, and the Scottish Business School. For the last 5 decades, he has been taking management to all sectors and to all corners of India. The Government of India recognized his contribution with a Padma Bhushan in the year 2014. Dr. Athreya has been professionally honored as the Bhishma Pitamaha, the Grand Guru of the Indian HRD. He also is respected as the icon of the Indian costing profession. Dr. Athreya has been an advocate of Dharma in all walks of life. The revered Sringeri Shankaracharyas have conferred on him the title of Dharma Pracharak. Dr. Athreya is now a national evangelist on the 5 major challenges before India in this 21st century. These challenges are world peace, climate healing, coping with China, reduction of inequality, and sustaining Dharma. With this introduction, I now cordially invite Dr. Athreya ji to take things forward and share with us the principles of Dharma in management. Over to you, Athreya ji.
Thank you very much, Venu, for that kind introduction. I thank Disha, Rekha ji, and her whole team for organizing this series of talks and all the good work they've been doing for the last 20 years since the founding of Disha. Many of the listeners may be aware of it, some may be new, and I hope those who listen to this series of talks, including mine today, will keep in touch with Disha. And if some of you are not in Karnataka, but you will start or help anyone who starts similar activities in your state. This is to spread all over Bharat. I'm delighted. When I was asked for a topic by Rekha ji, the founder, I suggested this topic of Dharma for modern management. How the principles of Dharma, it is in English, one translation is ethics, but as you know, Dharma cannot be fully translated. And I have designed my presentation over 5 slides, and each slide has 5 bullet points. That is a total of 25. There are also some other extra slides which we can use now or during question time. So let me begin with the topic. Yeah, this is the title, Dharma for Modern Management. Dharma has been around in India for a long time. Raja Dharma, Praja Dharma, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Brahmana Dharma. Today we're talking about the whole profession, the field of management. And this is the main introduction. The 4 points were covered by Venu. This is just acknowledging that it is under the Disha umbrella that we're doing it, date and time. Let's proceed. Rajesh, the next slide. Yeah, these are the contents of my presentation. Dharma is just not an ordinary ethical value. It is our savior. And we'll see why we need Dharma to survive as a society, as a country, as a human civilization. And then I go into the specific domain, the field of management, and how the principles of Dharma can be applied and should be applied in the area of management. While this is ideal that Dharma principles should be applied, we recognize that there are many blocks difficulties, obstacles on the way, mainly human, some institutional. So having recognized the blocks or difficulties in practicing Dharma, I go on to what are the qualities required in an organization, in a team, in an individual to practice Dharma as closely as possible. We may never be able to perfectly follow Dharma, but it is our aspiration, intention, and some bona fide errors we can learn from and practice Dharma better and better. And then I conclude the presentation with an action plan of how we can go about practicing Dharma in management. Many of you in the audience may have a good knowledge of Sanskrit. You may have read about Dharma, some Dharma Shastras. You may have heard about some very simple definitions and quotations about Dharma. How does the word Dharma come? In Sanskrit, every word has a samasa vakyam as a background. It is not like English or European languages. You cannot put a few alphabets together and make a word. Every word has a root and a vakya by which it can be defined. So Dharma derives its name, dharayati iti dharma, that which upholds a society, a civilization, the whole world, humankind. For example, if the present conflict in Ukraine and in Gaza, they escalate, we get into a world war, and a lot of adharma will happen in a world war, and the future of humanity will be under threat. There may be survivors, but much smaller than the current population of 7 billion people. It will be a disaster. So Dharma upholds communities, nations, organizations, families. If in a family the seniors neglect Dharma, then the family will go to ruin. But it is still possible for the children to pick up Dharma and come back. Dharma always offers us a route, a hope, and it is waiting for us to adopt its principles. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Dharmo rakshitaha rakshati is another way to put it. If we take care of Dharma, if we protect Dharma, Dharma will protect us. Conversely, if we neglect Dharma, if we destroy Dharma, we will be destroyed. Those of you who have heard Bhagavad Katha will know the conversation between Parikshit, Raja Parikshit, and Kali, the beginning of Kali Yugam. And Parikshit wants to confine Kali to a few places only and protect Dharma in the rest of society. You are all familiar with the 4 Purusharthas. What is our objective in life? What are our goals? Why are we here? And the 4 are always in the same order: Dharmartha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma is always first. In any Purana, Kavya, Sutra, Bhashyam that you read, the Dharma will always appear as the number 1 objective. Therefore, it overrides the other 3 objectives. Actually, moksham is something that we come to towards the end of our lives. So, up to the Rig Veda period, there are only 3 objectives: Dharma, Artha, Kama. And even today, practically in our lives, we have to pursue these objectives. And at some point, when we take the ashrama dharma, we move from brahmacharya, grahastha to vanaprastha and sannyas. In vanaprastha and sannyas, the moksham idea is becoming more and more important to us. And at that point, we leave behind artha and kama and focus mainly on dharma and moksha. Although I've talked about modern management and the management is associated with business, Dharma applies to all organizations. I have in my life, last 5 decades, as was mentioned by Venuji. Applied Dharma not only, I began in businesses where Dharma was most needed. We'll see why businesses need Dharma even more than others. But government also has adharma, temptations, problems. Not all of government work is dharmic. So I have helped government organizations, ministries, departments, committees, public enterprises, central and state, to look at dharma and benefit from the understanding and practice of dharma. Business, of course, NGOs also need dharma. We see many good NGOs. NGOs are more naturally built for dharma. Their aptitude, their mission is to do good to society. But even within NGOs, there can be adharma between members, between different sections, between regions. There are conflicts in large NGOs. They also can benefit from dharma. Dharma is not a negative control. It's a very positive strength, a source of energy, peace, shanti, confidence, motivation for the future. Ultimately, our Shastras emphasize that Dharma is vital not only for organizations, for every individual at a personal level. The four Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, apply to every individual and through the various stages of life, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Yeah, next one. So modern management theory, first in Japan, then in parts of Europe, later in the US, of course also in India now. The management theory initially was primarily based on scientific methodology, industrial engineering, time and motion study, productivity, operations research, computers, and so on. Now, that scientific methodology is still useful. At the moment, there is a very serious debate going on AI, artificial intelligence. It has potential both for good and bad. This is true of every scientific methodology. For example, the cell phone. If used carefully and with control, it's a very good device. But in the hands of children, teenagers worldwide, there is a feeling that it is damaging them, their concentration on studies, their health, their lack of exercise, inadequate sleep, lifestyle diseases. So, science can be helpful and also be harmful. In order to make it more helpful than harmful, industry management has now brought in HRD, human resource development, the potential of individuals, making them aware of their strengths and weaknesses and their potential, the gap between their current performance and their potential, how they can grow and bridge it, and also the issue of ethics, the morality. When I began talking about Dharma in management in the 1970s, initially many senior managers, middle managers did not take me seriously. They said, Dr. Athreya, you have just come back from Harvard. You're talking about Dharma. You have listened to some lectures in the Ramakrishna Mission, Chinmaya Mission, on the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. Some of them said that Dharma and business have nothing to do with each other. What is the connection? You are being unrealistic. Then I gave them some examples from Indian and global business, where companies which follow ethics, whether it is derived from Bible or Quran or the Gita and the Upanishads, wherever they follow good principles of conducting business, they last longer, they're more successful. The ones that neglect Dharma appear to grow and succeed for some time, and they also decline and vanish. So by the second or third generation, only the businesses which follow Dharma will survive. So I have here listed 5 elements of Dharma for management. We can have a longer list, but I have picked many of you in the audience. This topic may have attracted some people from industry, from business. will be aware of ABC analysis. If there are a number of items, look for the A category, the most important items. If the A category is too long, look for A1, A2, A3. So always prioritizing the most important things. So for today, we are in a highly competitive market. And it is not only nationally competitive, regionally competitive. A business in Karnataka can no longer worry only about the customer in Karnataka. It is worry about southern region first. If it wants to expand, then it may gradually go into the western region, which is close by, central India, North India, Eastern India. So there are customers all over the country. And now we are following the Chinese path of globalization, exports, a lot of stress on exports. And we have to be concerned about the domestic and global customer. And the management should realize what is its dharma. These are various things that are known to you. Let me just very quickly list them. Price, quality, delivery, service, replacement. Customer satisfaction was the original term. Then businesses started talking about customer delight. And since various companies are competing, customer can leave any one company and move to another company. Even in a highly capital intensive industry, for example, in telecom now, there are three players. The customer has choices, Bharati, Jio, and Vodafone. Similarly, in energy sector, there are many companies. Some are capital intensive, but in consumer products, there are many competitors. Pharma, travel. So, getting and retaining customers comes only through Dharma. Second requirement today, we have a huge stock market. There is a large amount of shareholders, big mutual funds which have grown. So the shareholder in the company who is investing is trusting the management to keep the capital safe, not to embezzle the funds, and to give reasonable returns, not very high returns which cannot be sustained, but also returns which are better than fixed deposits at the banks. So investor dharma is safety of capital, payment of dividends regularly, bonus shares, increase in the wealth of the shareholder, market capitalization. So there are many elements there which the company should perform. They should not take the shareholders' funds and misuse it for some private projects of their own. It'll all be found out. There are now very strong audit systems, inspection systems, SEBI, and some businesses have gone through the bankruptcy process, have been resold. So we have reforms which are facilitating and enforcing Dharma. So customer, investor, there are other groups, but the social responsibility to society, it has many dimensions, and you may be reading newspapers, seeing on TV. One is the CSR 2% profit or project capital cost. The other is the now big question of climate change, which is a huge threat to humanity, our children, our grandchildren. What kind of country are we leaving behind for them? So pollution levels, carbon levels. So many companies, large companies have now started following Indian national example and disclosing their zero carbon date target. And they have a target by 2030, by which time Prime Minister has given the Panchamrit target to the Paris conference, and later every conference, COP29 is coming up. Our performance will be reviewed, and we have very aggressive plans to expand solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, and we are moving on this path. Another stakeholder in the business is the employee, well-being of the employee, and the working conditions, treatment, facilities, canteen, transport, health, treatment of the employees, job satisfaction. Of course, we still have high unemployment. That's a problem of most developing economies. We must continue to solve them. And every company should worry about the current employee, the retired employee, and the prospective future employee. In Dharma, in organizations, there are two categories. One is the Samanya Dharma of the worker. We'll come to that. The managers have a Shreshta Dharma. And some of you may be familiar with the concept of Shreshta Dharma. There are 2 points I'd like to highlight. Yad yad acharati Shreshtaha tatadaiva itaro janaha. What the Shreshta, what the senior, the elite, the leader does, others follow. So the workers will follow quality, punctuality, cost control, if they see that the seniors are also doing it. If they see the seniors are wasting resources and neglecting quality, then their motivation will go down. So, yad yadacharati shreshta tatadeva itaro janaha. Sayat pramanam, Rajesh said the previous slide, Sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Praman, standards. The leader, the Shreshta, has set standards by which people will say, that is the gold standard. That is how I should do things for the executive subordinates as well as for the workers. This may also be followed by dealers, vendors who deal with the senior management of a company. They will be influenced by the Shreshta Dharma of managers. Rajesh, next slide. These are two very famous shlokas in the Gita, which all of us know in chapter 4. And many of you, I'm sure, can recite it. Some of you are probably doing Gita Path, Gita Parayan. And these are memorized by millions of people in this country. Yada yada hi dharmasya, glanirбхавати bharata, abhyutthanam adharmasya, tadatmanam srijamyaham. Bhagwan Krishna says, whenever dharma declines, Arjuna, I incarnate myself again and again. And the two most famous incarnations that we are aware of, we worship in human form, Sri Rama. Although divine, he came consciously, Manushoham, I'm a human being, to demonstrate how Dharma can be followed under the most difficult circumstances. Vanavas on the day of Rajyabhishekam, no bitterness towards Bharata or Kaikeyi or anyone, immediately proceeding to the forest, 14 years in the forest, helping the Rishi Munis and so on, the dukkham of Sita's abduction, the friendship with Sugriva, and various other things, ending in the final killing of Ravana, who could be killed only by a human being and not by any other force. Paritranaya sadhunam vinachaya dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya samavami yuge yuge. So it is the role of the father and mother to do dharma samsthapanam in the family. It is the role of an NGO to do dharma samsthapanam in the area it is serving among its beneficiaries. It is the responsibility of senior managers to do dharma samsthapanam in their sangathan, in their organization. And the leader should be not only rewarding good people, paritranaya sadhunam, but also correcting vinashaya dushkritam. Actually, more and more we say vinashaya, not those who do the thing, but the dushkarma, the bad work that they're doing, still recover them and make them into sadhu, convert a dushta into a sadhu. That is the role of leadership. Blocks to dharma. Why more and more companies do not follow? Now many companies do. When I began my work, there was hardly any interest in dharma. It is all about artha, profit, dividend. capital appreciation, manipulating the share price. The greed for artha dominates the thinking. Artha dominates everybody in government, in NGO, in personal life. But business is particularly susceptible to the greed for artha because they deal with artha. That is their primary goal, wealth creation. So it is difficult to make a beautiful set of sweets and not to taste them. So they are tempted much more than the rest of us. It is easy for any bureaucrat or intellectual to criticize business. And whenever they, in my sessions, used to speak ill of business and run them down, I used to tell them that why don't you try and start a business? You can make a lot of money. And then you will realize the difficulty of running a business. They also have temptation for karma. When you have a lot of money, you can enjoy many things: golf, drinks, clubs, women, various kinds of travel, uh, accumulation. And gradually, as you deal with crores of rupees, there can be some arrogance coming from the wealth. And it has to be a very humble person as he goes more and more into the top, like some outstanding examples in India and abroad, who, despite huge growth and big groups, have not shown arrogance, have maintained their humility. Sometimes bad laws and regulations. So some companies used to tell me, and even individuals, that Dr. Athreya, when the basic rate of tax is 66% during the previous regime, before the liberalization, when the finance minister cut down the rates to 33%. And then on top of that, surcharge, wealth tax, and so on. And sometimes the tax outflow was 90% plus. So in those conditions, people will not pay tax, will try to manipulate their accounts. They will have two books of accounts. So we have been removing those bad laws and regulations. So government should trust business. Business should respond to that trust. That is the path in which we are now moving. And sometimes Dharma, many managers down the line may like to follow Dharma. They may be uncomfortable working in an organization which is adharmic, but poor leadership continues to maintain adharma in the organization. And those competent managers who can find other jobs, they leave such an organization. There were, for a long time in India, executives with MBA, CA, costing, and similar qualifications, their first preference was to work for a multinational company because globally they had better Dharma practices than Indian companies. Second, they wanted to work for the more professionally managed companies like Tata, Mahindra, Bajaj, a few well-known, Kirloskar, well-known companies. The last was to work in traditional family businesses, which were a little bit feudal in culture and only went for wealth and did not believe in Dharma. Okay, next. So we can overcome these. There is the law of karma, which is inexorable. No one can escape it. And the law governs all our actions. And it means that any action, good or bad, karma phalam cannot be escaped. It will accumulate. You will be familiar with the concept of sanchita karma, pratyaksha karma, agama karma, and how one can control. At any given time, you start doing good karma, you can gradually run down the effects of bad karma phalam and accumulate positive merit, leave behind for your 7 generations after you. So karma governs the order of the physical world. So for example, the countries which are now involved in war, which are invading, occupying another country, bombing, killing people, they will at some point pay for this. They're already paying for it. There's a lot of protests, movements, and so on. But for the time being, they're continuing unilaterally, not listening. But they will have to make amends at some point. For example, Gaza, which is being destroyed, there will have to be a huge investment in its reconstruction, and the country which played a role in the destruction will also have to put up a lot of that investment fund. Next, Rajesh. So, what are the qualities required for Dharma to overcome those blocks and practice the Dharma which I mentioned in the first slide? Gunas are very important. And as you all know, the most important guna is sattva. Just like dharmartha, kama, moksha, the gunas are always mentioned in one and only order, sattva, rajas, tamas. It is never rajas first. Sattva is the number one guna. And we should try and minimize our tamasic just enough for sleep, rest, recovery. And on rajoguna, which is good, which is better than tamas, a source of energy. Sri Krishna has a beautiful phrase in the Gita, Shanta Rajasam, to convert your Rajasic energy into Sattvic energy, channel it in the right kind of objectives, goals, strategies, directions. The second quality requirement for Dharma is not just worry about oneself, one's department, one's organization, but really be concerned with Lokasangraha. What is good for the community, the target population, where your NGO or government or business has an impact. Lokasangrahameva is the main objective that Krishna recommends in life. And perform karma with nishkama karma. The rewards will come, but the results are affected not only by karma, this you know, by several factors, external factors, competition, price levels, scarcities. So you may do an excellent piece of work, but the overall results of the organization are not as good, and the rewards will depend on that basis. An organization cannot perform poorly and still pay people very high. Kaushalam, excellence. And many of you will be familiar in the Gita, Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. Any work we do it in the most efficient, effective way possible. Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. Any karma that you do. And our seniors from my childhood, I remember, always said that don't do anything shoddy, imperfect, half finished. It is better not to start something unless you can do it very well. And in fact, it is that pursuit of Kaushalam that has enabled many of us to come up with some difficult backgrounds and claim and scale heights of education in India and abroad and professionally contribute to the nation. So Kushal Karma is a very important principle. Rajesh, back to the slide. Rajesh, can we go back to the slide?
Yes, one second, sir.
Okay. I
They're
have
on
it printed
screen,
with
so
me.
I'm waiting for them to do that.
And samatva, equanimity, another very important quality in performing dharma. There will be business cycles, economic crisis, political crisis, invasion. So under these conditions, the management of the organization should be a shock absorber and maintain their equanimity, not go overboard with good profits and success, not be depressed. So under all conditions, they have to retain. Yoga has two definitions in the Gita. One I mentioned already, yoga karmas kaushalam, yoga samattu uchyate. The Sthita Prajna. Krishna lists the qualities of Sthita Prajna. So there are many other qualities of dharma which are. Rajesh, do you have next slide after this, where we list many other qualities of dharma. I'm not going into them. There are a lot of elements here. All of these are relevant. Now let's go to the action plan, dharma action plan, and then you will have an opportunity to raise your questions. You may please already put your questions in the chat box. Mr. Venugopal will be the anchor, and he will put to me the questions, and I will respond to them. So the Dharma action plan make Dharma a part of the culture of the organization, just like human consideration, motivation, these aspects. Dharma should be, along with quality, cost, affordable price, Dharma should be an element of culture. And build Dharma into the vision, long-term vision plan, the mission of the organization and its strategies. At a national level, we have an excellent example that Vikasit Bharat is our goal for 2047. We have the Amrit Kal of 25 years from 2022 to 47 to achieve it. And we have many strategies, including R&D, capital investment, welfare programs, skilling and development to reach new cities, technology, collaboration, foreign investment, to reach those. And all managers should be trained. One type training is not enough. We easily go back to adharma, which is convenient, and dharma is forgotten. So train and retrain. All workers should be trained in Kaushalam, not once, but periodically. Nowadays, the slogan is continuous lifelong learning. And that's again a beautiful word in Sanskrit. The most important quality to be inculcated in every worker and manager, jignasa. Jnatum ichcha iti jignasa. The desire for learning continuously, never feel arrogant, satisfied, complacent that I know everything about this organization, this work. And in the internal audit of the company, just like we look at receipts, payments, vouchers, and so on, the compliance with Dharma values of the company should be part of the internal audit. So last slide, I invoke the Ashirwad and pray our prarthanas to Adi Shankara, who re-established the Hindu Dharma in this country in a time when Dharma was under peril, under threat, and was partly ignored. So I hope that speech was of interest to you, the contents. Venuji, I look forward to the questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Athreya ji, for the very insightful talk. Now let us start taking the questions. I have one question that has come up on the chat. So the question is about the manager. It says, what are the key qualities that a manager should cultivate to embody Dharma in their leadership?
One quality I mentioned is to cultivate Shreshta Dharma, the Dharma of a Shreshta. So his is leadership Dharma. The workers is work Dharma, skill Dharma. So the leader should have the appropriate knowledge, qualifications, experience, skill. These are normal. But he should have a commitment to the organization and its stakeholders. Let me just go through the manager should not be concerned about himself first. He should always put the customer first, deeply concerned about, are we giving the customer value for money and new products, innovations, better packaging, ease of use, less injury, toxic material, quality. Also have the same compassion and care for the dealer, distributor, vendor of the company. It is not enough to have technical knowledge of transportation and delivery, but motivate the dealership network and inspire their trust and make them also perform dharma to the customer because the company is dharmic towards them. And similarly with suppliers, vendors, as a company grows, getting the right kind of materials, components, assemblies, sub-assemblies is very important. So a kind of a family feeling, a parivar bhavana. And in the Gita, there is a beautiful phrase again, parasparam bhavayantaha. feeling and caring for each other. So academic qualification, technical qualification, these are important. They are the foundation. But the various dharma attitudes and qualities I mentioned is what makes a manager superior and effective.
Yes, thank you so much. We have one more question. This question is about the internal audits. Every company has its own internal checks and balances. So the viewer is asking, how can internal audits be used to ensure compliance with Dharma in a business setting?
Okay. You remember my point that dharma should be included in the values of the company.
Yes.
And so value compliance must be one element of the internal audit and the
Yes.
practice of dharma. And if it is a marketing department, the audit should include questions about dharma towards the customer, dealer, distributor, transporter, right down to the truck driver who carries the stuff. And if it is a purchase procurement department, dharma towards the vendor, the supplier, their equipment, capital investment, quality, any help needed to them, their difficulties. They have to get some raw materials to make those products to supply to the main mother company. So similarly, if you take the finance department, paying interest to depositors on time, declaring and paying dividends on time, controlling capital expenditure, but not buying in a dharmic fashion, black market, one price in the book, one cash price. So various kinds of tests can be for every department. In the human resource department, how well the employees feel that the facilities are good, conducive, canteen, transport, cleanliness, as well as the training and development, job opportunities, job satisfaction, no minimum accidents, health care even to the family. If they have a worker colony, maintenance of that colony very well. There some greenery, flowers, worrying about the heat level, comfort of the workers, their good sleep and being fit. So there is no limit to the compassion and dharma. These should be audited at least quarterly within the company.
Yes.
And then in the annual report, there is now a section for values, not only listing the values, but the compliance with the values.
It's wonderful.
The
I think
new movement of ESG, environment, social, and governance, include some of the elements.
it's very heartening to know some of these elements have been incorporated in many of the audits now.
Yes.
I'm very happy to know that. The next question is from your years of experience in working with various companies. I'm sure there have been situations where the companies have to choose between dharma versus artha. Can you give us some example, some real world example in which a company chose dharma over artha, and as you said, in the long run, they are surviving and they're doing wonderfully well?
There has been from time to time shortage of a product due to the raw material or power cuts or import restrictions. There are companies which have maintained the price, not raised them. And that inspires the customer's confidence. And when conditions get better, they're willing to pay a 5% higher price or a 10% higher price. They accept a company raising prices when the costs go up, if it is also lowering prices when the costs don't go up. So some of the companies that I mentioned have kept a steady price.
Yes, I'm very happy to know
So
that.
Artha is always tempting. And
Yes.
there are people within the organization who say that let us reduce the packaging size, quality, still charge the same price. So the customer is being deprived, but the company is making profit. Likewise, they advocate that vendors need not be paid so much. We just pay them cost plus 5% or 7% minimum. don't share the company's prosperity with them, and also negotiate very hard with the union, minimum wage increase, keep the bonus as low as possible. These are the temptations so that managers can have a higher bonus, stock options. So the big problem we are discussing worldwide, including India, is rising inequality. The gap between the highest income and the lowest income, which should fall, is actually increasing. The more a company grows, the more profits it makes. In many companies, it tends to go to the managers more. The shareholders get some, but the workers and business partners don't get enough. So Artha is a very strong. Just like in a man's life, Kama is very strong up to a certain age. That is why Rama's model of Ekapatni Vratam is a real model. Nowadays, because people marry late, there may be some indiscretion before the marriage, but at least after the marriage, there must be total commitment to each other. And that is how a happy marriage is built. Marriage is also, in a way, like a business. My advice to young couple is keep investing in each other. Don't say, I get first, I demand first, and then if I get it, I will respond. You unilaterally make your investment, give your love and benefits, then wait, it'll automatically come back. Where will it go? That is the faith in Dharma. Same with parent-child relationship. Children will not be initially grateful. Some children even say that you brought me, you had sex, I'm not responsible for my birth. But gradually, as you deal with them, as you care for them, love grows and they feel grateful. So, parasparam bhavayanta. Parents' dharma, if they practice well, the children will practice their dharma in due course.
Yes, it's a very nice way to connect the management and dharma to both the marriage as well as parenting. Very nice to know that. Now coming to the next
Management,
question.
I've also applied to family management.
Yes, yes, yes.
What is the role of the husband, wife, the elder children, younger
Yes.
children together?
Yes.
For example, now you take an environmental issue. Waste disposal is a big problem. So every child in the family and the adult has to be careful to minimize waste. A lot of food is wasted. And plastic and non-plastic is not separated.
Yes.
Chemicals are there, very dangerous for the environment. And the cleaners who take it are liable to infections. So our dharma starts from the home. And children early on should learn how to be good to teachers, fellow students. So a big human being all the way, a dharmic student, a dharmic employee, a dharmic manager, and a dharmic adult. The dharma is the only way we can survive. And it is a very beautiful path. And in the Gita, Krishna says, initially dharma looks difficult because artha and kama are very powerful temptations. Yattad agre vishamiva. At the beginning, it is like poison. Pariname amritopamam. As you practice it, it is like amrit when you succeed. And you will never be tempted by illegal wealth. Legitimate wealth you can earn. Legitimate kama you can enjoy. Kama is not only sex, the extensive lifestyle diseases, sugar consumption, sweets, oil, outside food, junk food. Young people are suffering from high levels of diabetes, obesity, heart problem. So this is neglecting dharma at home leads to all these problems. So the parents, for their convenience, should not order pizza and other things frequently. Homemade food now, nutritionists recommend grandmother's food
Yes.
So we have a dharma to our own shariram. We abuse the shariram. The dharma of every individual is to live 100 years. If you die early, it is your fault. You performed some adharma. Jivema sharadashatam. So dharma is everywhere. It is in every aspect of life. You and I, you have to do dharma to the audience, their questions.
Yes.
I have to do my dharma by delivering a good talk and responding to the questions as sincerely I can. Try to remember my brain active, retrieve, recover various things, and as I respond, enrich the answer. So at all times, we must think about how can we do dharma better.
Yes.
And it's always a better way. You never reach the perfect end.
Yes, indeed. You talked about how, as an individual, you start following your dharma, then the family dharma, and then you are part of the society and the management. The management also gets into that dharmic mode. Now comes the next question. You spoke about karma. Now we have a viewer who was asking, how can the pursuit of nishkama karma influence our management strategies?
Now, I've been asked this question, as you can imagine, thousands of times. The answer is very clear and very useful. Your control is only over your karma. You can do better, worse. So it is in your effort. The reward is not in your control. If you are anxious for the reward, if you think about the reward and you're working only for the reward, and then karma becomes secondary, incidental. So depending on your anxiety for reward, karma phalam, 30 or 40% of your energy is wasted in that worry, and only 60% of your competence is working on the karma. So I have practiced in my life, reward will come. I have full confidence. Where will it go? I will just put my head down like Arjuna on the eye of that fish, reflection. Do the work in front of you, reward. And I returned to the country from Harvard at the age of 26. I have been amply rewarded. I have no complaints about India, organizations, my clients. I've been rewarded more than I need, more than I deserve. That is how a Nishkama Karma yogi should feel, not have any grievances. That is what the NGOs, good NGOs do. There are a few good civil servants who do the same. There are very good ministers who do the same. In industry, there is a problem because they are dealing with money all the time. Artha. And in the film industry, karma is a very strong attraction. So you see the Kerala report now, and the whole committee resigning, and a leader has said in Tamil Nadu, this will happen now. Whole worldwide, the Me Too has happened. So in some areas, people have access to karma and they are tempted. They neglect dharma. And in business, money is the temptation. So the
It's
more
very
you
heartening.
resist the temptation, the stronger you get. Let me make one more point.
Yes.
We human beings have three kinds of Shaktis. The easiest is Kriya Shakti, doing something, being busy, showing people that you are busy, what you are doing, what is its importance, what is the use. We don't inquire. Second is Jnana Shakti. We Indians are very intelligent, high IQ. We can study for any course, any exam, pass it, get the qualification. But the weakest in human beings is Ichcha Shakti, willpower. Dharma requires willpower, Ichcha Shakti. So you find, you know what is the Dharma. Don't be like Duryodhana. Janami dharmam, nachame pravritti. Janami adharmam, nachame nivritti. I know what is Dharma, I'm not able to do it. I know what is adharma, I'm not able to stop it. He's right. Majority of human beings, I have called it the Duryodhana complex. In this condition, in their heart of hearts, they know what is dharma. They are not able to implement it because of weak will, ichha shakti. So these meditation, vrat, austerities, they are ways of strengthening the ichha shakti. Exercise, marathon, control of diet. So one must exercise ichha shakti in oneself first, then on the organization.
Yes.
So we are all in the position of Duryodhana rather than Yudhishthira.
Yes. We hope all of us
Yudhishthira
transition
said,
into the Yudhishthira mode and get into more and
these
more
are
of
beautiful.
Dharma.
In no
Yes.
country you get this. Mahabharata, after winning the Kurukshetra war, Yudhishthira says, Na kamaye rajyam, na swargam, na sukam. I don't want rajyam. I don't want comfort. I don't want to go to heaven. Kamaye artinam artanasanam. I want to remove the suffering of suffering people. Where will you get a king like this? That is Dharma. That is why he is called Dharma Raja. Not Duryodhan. All his 100 of them died. They had to go. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha.
Yes.
Dharmasya vinashe atma vinasham.
Yes, I think with that, we come to the conclusion of this beautiful 1 hour. We have learned a lot of things, right, from Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita to what is a Sreshta Dharma, and what can people do, what are the blockages to Dharma, and what can organizations and individuals do to blossom that Dharma. And in the end, right from an individual Dharma to a family Dharma to the manager's Dharma to the whole society moving in a dharmic path. And we also understood the aspect of Ichha Shakti and what can as individuals do to make sure that Ichha Shakti can be developed so that we go towards this dharmic aspect. And to hear it from somebody who has been doing Nishkama Karma all his life has been our pleasure. So we thank Dr. Athreya ji for giving us this valuable time, be part of Disha Bharat's Ethics from Epics. And from all the viewers, I would give my humble thanks to you. And we will meet in person. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank everybody.
Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll take leave of you. May I?
Yes.
All the audience I thank. I hope you found the talk useful. And your Guru Dakshina will be if you practice Dharma and encourage Dharma everywhere you go. I don't want anything else from you.
Very aptly put. Very aptly put. Thank you so much. Namaskarams to everybody. Thank you so much.